Hey everybody, how you doing? Podcast 48 here, and I'm with my good friend Shannon Whalen. How are you, Shannon?
I'm wonderful. How are you?
Good to see you again.
You too.
This is weird because last time I saw you, uh, I was like in the worst place of my life and the best. It was insane, and now
Yeah,
my life is completely different. And you were there the weekend that changed my life completely.
I was. I witnessed.
Crazy. So we'll get into that.
We will.
But that's how I met Shannon, and it was at a retreat that we went on through Gap Community, and completely, it's I kind of called it like a psychological boot camp for me.
Okay,
It was
that's
like,
interesting.
wait, whoa, it was I don't know, like crazy. But Shannon, that we met at Awaken,
We
which
met
is
at
what it was
Awaken.
called,
Yes.
and let's talk about what got you there and what this journey that you've been on, and tell me a little about yourself.
Well, what got me there?
Let's start with that.
Yeah. So I met a friend of mine who does body work, and she invited me to Reveal.
Mm,
And I really just liked her outlook, what she had to say about it, and the impact it had on her life. And so
got it.
I was like, all right, I'll go. And she's like, I'll be there. We'll rent a house. A bunch of us are going. We're going to rent a house. It'll be fun. Just, come with me. And I'm like, okay, great. No idea what I was signing up for.
Mm.
And I
And
went,
this is before like you've done anything like spiritual of any sort, huh?
not before I'd done anything spiritual, but I would say before I had done anything quite like this.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay, got it.
Yeah.
So that's what got you to Awaken, and what?
That got me to Reveal.
Oh, that got you to Reveal.
And then I went to Awaken like 6 weeks later. Also,
Oh.
don't highly recommend that. Give yourself a little bit of break. But I was like, I'm like an all in or nothing kind of person.
Yeah.
So I was like, that was great. Let's go again. And I had met somebody else who works at a coaching firm, and so that got me back to the Awaken that I met you at because it was part of the training that I was in.
Oh.
So that's
Okay.
how I got there.
Wow. Okay. Cool. So, what kind of got you into this realm of like inner work and like self personal development, and what? Well, now you do it for a living.
Hmm.
So it's kind of like what got you there? What do you feel like? Was there any certain circumstances, or was there just accumulation of things? What do you feel like happened?
So
And why do you feel like it's so important?
yeah. So the first time I ever experienced personal development was when I was in a multi-level marketing company.
Ah,
And they were like, read all these books. And I'm like, this is great, but I didn't really like the rest of it.
yeah,
I
for
just
sure.
really liked the books.
Got
I'm
it.
like in this plan.
Sorry.
It's all good. So I just really enjoyed reading all those books and like then reflecting on it on myself. And
Hmm.
then, on social media, coaches popped up. People were talking about different things with mindset. And I'm like, yeah, that makes sense to me. Like the way I'm thinking about things isn't probably the only way there is to think about things. And,
Yeah.
what else is out there? What am I like? What is just something that I think versus what actually is true? And so I just kept going with that. And I've met people along the way. Like I got a coach. I then was introduced to a woman who does Reiki,
Hmm.
and she was the one who really opened me up to more spirituality, and that just took over.
Yeah.
It's like
And it's a
I
never-ending
love it.
journey too, right? It's just like
Hmm.
a constant. I was talking to my friend Barrett, who's actually in the training, or he was on the team, and I was telling him yesterday, and it was like it's a constant check-in, of yourself and where
Yeah.
you're at, and it's a constant, reverting back to the things that or have learned about yourself, and
Yeah.
making sure you're still on that right track and stuff like that. um, so it's never ending, and it's kind of scary, but it's kind of cool at the same time, because you can't unlearn this stuff,
Yeah.
right?
Once the curtain's pulled, that's
Yeah,
you can't.
exactly.
Yeah, you can't go back.
Exactly. What do you feel like it was these trainings that like pull the curtain for you, or was it like something? Um, was it an accumulation of like experiences, or was there like, because like for me personally, like when I got to Awaken, I wasn't necessarily in a horrible place, but I was in a place where I just didn't know much about myself,
Hmm.
and it was so uncomfortable because it was like, oh, that's what you see, and was there like a one-time thing for that for you, or was it just like, let me just dive into this spirituality stuff? Like,
Was there a one-time thing for me? I had a moment at Reveal that was pretty intense.
oh wow,
Yeah.
got it.
And that probably started to shake things up for me
Got
in
it.
a big way, where yeah, I probably started to do that reflection in a different way than I used to after that point.
Why do you feel like this isn't more widespread? Why do you feel like most people, or why do you feel like a lot of people don't know about this stuff? Why do you feel like it's not taught to us as much? And the self-development and personal development world, I feel like is super, like it's huge,
Yeah.
but it's also like, at least maybe it's just the people I'm around, like people don't really, they want to look externally for things that'll help them, but like the internal work, I feel like is what people don't really want to do.
Yeah, it's hard
Yeah.
work.
It's hard,
It's hard work,
yeah.
and like you said, it's scary.
Yeah, it's scary.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And people are emulating what they're seeing instead of, and now I feel like people are showing a little bit more of like what it's really like, but we, especially in the social media world that we're living in,
Yeah.
people are seeing your highlight reel. This isn't new,
Yeah.
but like now we have more people that are sharing like their struggles, the truth, like what's really going on behind the scenes, and not just putting up this fake image, but everybody just wants to have that end result.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And we're in this immediate like everything comes instantly. You can,
Yeah.
We could have food appear in 30 minutes by a touch of a button on a phone. Like,
Yeah, that's
it's,
true.
It's insane how just everything, and that's our brains are programmed for it.
We've completely gotten rid of like the process of things.
Yeah,
you know?
and so people just want the same thing, and so they go the fastest route to it, which isn't actually going to help anything if you don't do the internal work. You're gonna you could get somewhere. Like, okay, you want to be a millionaire, great, have fun. You get there and you're like, shit, this feels the same because you haven't dealt with yourself.
Yeah, exactly. I feel like dealing with yourself is the first thing you got to realize is like everyone has something to work on, right? And I feel like a lot of people, if their life is just going by, like, you know, they have a job and they're just, you know, they're like, you know, going through the motions. They don't realize that they have issues of
Right.
their own, right?
I would say that was the other answer I was going to say is like there are people that are just like they don't know what they're saying no to.
Yeah.
If they say no, if it comes up in their life, they may not be aware of it, but they also don't. Yeah, people aren't aware of themselves or aware that, like, I didn't realize there were other ways for me to reflect on how I'm showing up in the world until I started to look more deeply into this. So it's like it's a blind spot for people.
That's what I feel like Awaken did for me. It illuminated blind spots in my head that I didn't even realize were there.
We all have blind spots. you
Yeah,
know?
that's
just
yeah,
it,
that's
it
just a
just comes
fact.
with the skin. It is what it is, and it's becoming aware. It's the same thing we see in society.
Yeah.
That things are coming up, and we're like, oh, I had no idea that that's what that experience was like for somebody, or that that's the way that was occurring to a whole group of people.
Yes.
Right. Same thing about ourselves. I had no idea that when I looked at you that way, it made you feel that I was angry, and you just internalize it.
Yeah,
like,
definitely.
I don't know that until somebody tells me.
I feel like there's a certain level of humbleness you need to have to like really just understand that like I'm a human and I am flawed, and there's a lot of shit within me that I need to, you know, like deal with, or at least not even deal with, or at least become aware of.
Yeah.
So you can try to work on it, you know? Like I feel like for me it was just becoming aware.
Yeah.
Not necessarily dealing with, just becoming aware, and that in itself is a lot, you know, to handle. And there's one thing that like I wanted to talk to you about, and it was like there's so many external things, especially now in the world, that like can, you know, one could say that are a hindrance to, you know, people's progress and stuff like that. Like, you know, let's just say like physical personal experiences that one could have, or you know, possibly like, you know, emotional stress of, you know, stuff like that. What do you feel like one, or I'll ask you, like, what do you do when you come across things that aren't in your control that you know, get to you? Like, I feel like for me it's emotions. Like, wait, like if I feel a certain way about something, like those, I'll kind of not attach myself to the thought patterns that I have there, but the actual emotion. And it's kind of like, oh, like the vibration is kind of like, why can't we just be happy all the time, stuff like that. And it's like, wait, you know, like what do you feel like you do in those scenarios?
When I feel like I have an emotion,
Sure.
Yeah, around something, if I don't give myself time to feel it, it's just gonna come out.
Got it. Okay. So you just feel like just sitting with it, dealing with it.
Yeah, I will take time intentionally to be with myself. And now if I don't, and if it's kind of funny because it used to be that I could really stuff things down and then I would just like lose it, like, and it would come out in anger. And now that I have such a small capacity for it. I think I remember a few weeks ago on a Sunday, I was like a little bit sad and I was just like, oh, whatever, I'm going to bed. And I went to bed and I woke up on Monday morning and just sat at my computer, like sobbing. And I was like, I don't know why I'm crying, but apparently this is what I'm doing now. And I was like, it's fine. I'll just let it run out and do my work. Cause it wasn't like I don't know how to explain. Like, it wasn't a very intense one. It was just like, I have this emotion. It needs to come out. Yeah. And I didn't feel like questioning it or getting curious about, like, what is it? I'm like, it just could be something that's come up. Like, but
that's my problem. And I feel like a lot of, you remember that? Like,
you don't want to let it go.
I don't want to let it go.
Yeah. I just let it rip now because I'm like, better out than in. Mentality. I'm like, I don't make up that there's any shame in crying. Yeah, definitely. So, I really let that narrative go because I have had it before. And there will probably be a moment if I'm around people that I'll be like, oh, I don't really want to cry in front of people. But at the same time, I'm like, whatever. I'm human. We're human. You know? And there is a difference of like having the emotion rather than the emotion having you, which it had taken me a while to really get better at that part. But I think that's also why I'm just like, oh, I'm crying right now. That's fine.
Yeah, definitely.
And not being like, oh my God, life is terrible. Like,
oh, I see what you're saying. Okay, just letting it go rather than being like attached to it, like letting it consume you. Yeah. Just let it pass. And that leads me to a book that you referred to me that was amazing. It was an amazing book that you sent to me, The Untethered Soul by Michael A. Singer. And I've read that book like 4 times now. I've
that makes me so happy.
Yeah, when you sent it over, I'm like, you know what? Let me do this. I listened to it on audio, and I'm like, oh my God. I need to read this all the time.
Yeah. I read that
I still
book
go back to it.
over and over, and then I got it on CD.
Yeah.
And I listened to it. That's how long ago.
Yeah.
I was listening to it in my car on CD. Oh, there's a cat.
Canelo.
Say hello.
Hey. Canelo has joined our podcast. Hey.
You're a very cute guest.
He is cute.
I probably ran those CDs out. That book was phenomenal. And then I was like, there's probably more. So I started to explore outside.
Yeah. And I feel like that's like, well, yeah, I'll still go back to chapters in that specific stuff in that book because I feel like there's a chapter in the book that can relate to everything.
I was just going to ask you, what was your favorite like story that is
in the book?
Yeah.
Okay, so there's 2 things that really stuck out to me. Number 1 was think of your emotions and your thoughts as trees passing by as you're driving. So like you're driving, you don't notice trees, but they're there. And that's how you should treat your thoughts. How like your mind is like this monkey that like never stops. And how it's like try controlling your thoughts, you'll go insane, you know? And that's something that I feel like the law of attraction kind of like, it was a blessing to like kind of like get that knowledge, but it was also kind of a curse because I feel like I had to control every single thought that went through my head. Maybe I interpreted it wrong, but like that was one part. And then the second one was death, like the concept of death and how if you truly understood that like your life is so short and how like you could die right now. Yep. How would you show up today if you knew you were going to die tonight? Yeah. And it was like, oh my God. And then there was this one part that really stuck out to me and it said, how much energy would you have to do the things you want to do if you knew you were going to die tonight? I was like, oh my God, I wouldn't sleep. You know, like you have so much to do. And when I started showing up like that and how, you know, time is the only thing that like, you know, you can't purchase back or anything like that. So those are 2 parts in there that really stuck out to me. There's a few parts in there that like, I didn't really fully understand. And I still don't really like grasp. And it was like, like chakras, energy and stuff like that. I don't really understand that. I'm still working on it, but how like, you know, shaking it out and all that stuff, and I don't know. Like, have you thought about that? Like, have you do stuff like that? Like
shake it out.
Like shake it out. I know you dance. You're a dancer.
I was gonna say
Shannon's a dancer.
I definitely shake.
Does that help? Does that like release energy?
Yes. if I feel anxious, if I feel like stagnant, I will definitely just move. I'm very physical, so movement helps a lot for me. Some people need to sit in meditation. I'm more of a moving, meditative type of person, but I do also still meditations.
Okay.
But absolutely, like movement. If
Yeah.
it's just kind of like when you're pumping yourself up for a workout.
Yeah.
It gets the energy up. Like you can do the same thing if you're feeling tired, or if you're just feeling like whatever feeling you have. We have the ability to manipulate our energy.
What do you feel like still meditation has done for you? What do you feel like that does? Like, obviously you said like the physical stuff helps you like move it around but what do you feel like the still meditation does for you?
Well, it helps me to practice being still and quieting my mind, because when I'm doing moving meditations, it's obviously I'm moving, but it's interesting because I almost get a clearer channel of like ideas or thoughts that come in when I'm moving than when I'm still. When I'm still, I'm just like kind of blank. So I think it's good to slow my mind down, because I am a faster person where I'm just like, I want everything to go at once, which also can work against me.
Got it.
So it does help with that.
All right, cool. Yeah, I feel like meditation is hard for some people because they are very, like, once again, they're like very uncomfortable with just going inward and just like embracing like who they are and what's going on in there. And I feel like a lot of people attach themselves to their mind and their thoughts.
Yeah.
And I feel like one thing that I would like try to get across is that like people like, and I wanted to get into this with you about like free will and stuff like that, and how do we have control over what we do. But I feel like,
oh, you wanted to go there.
I want down to go there too. Yeah, I feel like, what would you say to somebody who says like, like, oh, I'm having all these crazy thoughts, I'm having all these crazy like negative emotions, stuff like that, and I'm like, that's just like, how do I stop it? What would you say?
Why do we want to stop it?
Because I'm just keeping hypothetical. I'll be like, I don't know, they're just dragging me down. I don't, they're useless.
Yeah. So if we look at our emotions as more of data and information than like this experience that we judge as positive or negative, like it changes it. So if we're feeling down or sad and it's like an ongoing thing, either there's something that is under the surface that needs to be dealt with, and if it's not, if you're not able to be dealing with it, if it's that deep, I mean, then there's obviously the option of getting help with medication or going to see a therapist or something. But I have the belief that our first thought is not our responsibility, it's our second thought. So we can have, something can pop in and we can think that it's us, but we're really the observer of that. It's like, okay, there's a thought. Like, where did that come from? Especially if it's something that's like off the wall negative or off the wall period. Like,
yeah.
And you're like, where did that come from? And it's like, what do you want to do with that? Now that we heard it came in, great. What do you want to do with that? You want to ruminate on it and let it define you?
Yeah.
Or do you want to shift that and focus on something else? It's kind of like what you were saying, you have to control it, but it's like, you don't have to be, it's not beating into it. It's just like, oh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
You can investigate, or you could just be like, you know what, this is where I'm at. This is what I'm going to focus on. This is what's true for me right now.
Yeah, that's another thing I feel like, that me personally I had an issue with, was just being hard on myself when I had like those like negative thoughts.
Yeah,
like,
that's like a program that has been run rampant.
Yeah. You know what I'm saying? It's insane. Like, being good to yourself, of understanding that like, okay, like self-care.
Yeah.
And I feel like one thing I learned from Awaken was I feel like there was two me's. There was one me that I feel like I had, like, that I was showing up, and there was one me of like what I really wanted and who I really was.
Absolutely.
And who I, and I feel like my entire life was me, like, to dumb it down, was like telling the inner me to like fuck off, and like letting the external me be like, what people liked and what people wanted me to be. And that's one thing that, that retreat really told me was bitterness. Like, you do that enough, it's going to seep out.
Yes.
And it's going to come into other aspects of your life without you even knowing it.
Yeah.
And man, like, I feel like I was treating myself like I thought of myself as like this little was essentially like kind of like neglecting myself, like what
Yes.
I really wanted to do and who I really was.
Yes.
And when I started to really ask myself like what he wanted,
Yep.
and I started to do what he wanted, life just got like everything fell into place. Like it was weird. And yeah, I feel like most people are showing up in the world trying to be someone or something that they're not, or not most. I'm not trying to speak for others, but like a
That's
lot
common.
of people, you know?
No, it's very common.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
it's interesting because I think it awakened with you was when it clicked with me with high performers are also people who are performing like
Yeah.
and that's what it feels like with you with what you're describing is like you were showing up, so it's like you were performing being who you thought everyone wanted you to be,
Yeah.
as opposed to just being who you are.
Exactly.
And that typically I believe stems from that who you are isn't good enough, so I have to do this whole song and dance.
Yeah, but like little did I know was like who am I, or like who I was more than good enough.
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying? And it was
1,000%.
yeah.
Every single time.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
And most of the time that's better than the person that you're trying to be.
100%.
You know what I'm saying?
Every single time.
Like it's it was like man, like it was and another thing that made me like Canelo, it was this one thing that got me there was I didn't know, like my whole life was just seeing how others, like I feel like I had to be that person that I was, you know,
yeah, you don't see
performing
any
for.
other way.
You know, like oh these people are gonna like me for who I'm performing as, you know.
It's like your perspective is just right there.
Yeah,
and it's
exactly.
like there's no room for anything else.
Yeah,
and
and
then it's like doing something like that kind of just cracks it wide open.
Yeah,
You're like,
exactly.
holy shit.
Yeah,
Sorry,
I know.
are we allowed to swear?
Yeah, fuck
Okay,
yeah.
great. Fuck yeah.
Fuck yeah, we can.
Can I share a story from a weekend
Yeah.
that was really probably not fun for you?
Oh god, yeah. Damn it. Here we go. Yeah.
It was just wild because I think you've been told this, that when you were standing there, and I don't even remember the context. I remember then you were supposed to tell Barrett something honest.
Yeah.
And I could literally see like like where you would stop. You would tell us where it stopped, and I could see it on your body.
Oh my god.
Did anyone tell you that?
Yeah.
Oh yeah. It was crazy.
Yeah,
Like,
I know.
I could physically see where the emotion was just completely, you shut it off. But it
Right here. It's every time. It's
no,
right
it was
here.
right here, but then it started to go up.
Yeah.
The longer you waited, it was like you were getting closer and closer and closer, and then you just refused to let it out. And I don't know what that was for you, but it was just so fascinating to witness.
It was insane. I still now it's kind of like I'm learning a way to like use my like words with like what I'm thinking in a much better way.
Yes.
And like for example, like if I felt that now, like I would actually say it like, hey, like I don't know what's going on, but like I just can't really like say this correct. Like you know what I'm saying? I would be like, I would just say like I'm not feeling
it's
this.
like
or,
outing the experience that you're
exactly.
having,
Outing
or like
the
how you're
experience.
feeling, as opposed to trying to like say the right thing or like respond in a way that
Yeah,
you're supposed
exactly.
to, whatever.
Exactly.
Yeah. Like I had a conversation with a friend recently where I was like, I'm feeling extremely resistant to answer the question you just asked me, and here's why. And then we talked about that, and then I was like, cool, now I'm happy to answer the question you asked me.
Yeah.
But otherwise, I would have just been like, either like completely shut down, not been like forthcoming with information, or you know, whatever, and that she would have felt like, that's weird. Why are you being weird towards me? And it would have caused miscommunication, misunderstanding, all of the things. So
it's like the definition of brutally honest.
Yeah.
You know?
Yep.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
One thing I've like realized and what I like noticed about myself too is that like the bitterness, like, and this is like actually really funny. Like, I always found it interesting that I really love like heavy metal music and like dark music, and like I'm like, I don't know why. Like I'd be like, oh, I'm feeling good, and it made me realize like, man, maybe that's like inner like anger and like bitterness built up that like I like released it somehow.
Oh, it's so interesting that you said that, because
Yeah.
I think you know I'm obsessed with music, and
Yeah.
I've been thinking about like where somebody's consciousness is, or where their energy or vibration is when they make music, and the different types of music that people make and what their experience is.
Yeah.
Like, because it is so tied to emotions. So it does intrigue me deeply to like think about like what is that instilling in you that gets you excited and happy about it? Why do certain people gravitate towards different types of music than others? You know, it's
So
Blows my mind.
and this is something that this is whoa.
Whoa.
It makes me think like I grew up in a very like peaceful, like loving house. I grew up in a house that like
But
like
you
I
love
feel like I
death
had to
metal,
perform.
like.
Yeah, I know. Like, and it was weird in how like I played football as well, so I feel like I had to be this aggressive, like angry person. I feel like I was accepted by like doing like wild, like
Who
violent
told you
shit.
that? Who told you
No
that
one
you
told me
didn't-
that. Oh wait, tell me what?
Well, where did you get it from that you needed to be this like tough guy? Like,
Well, I think it came from acceptance of peers. Like I formed my identity with what people accepted me. Like what? Sorry, I formed my identity with what made people like me.
so when you did something and you got a response from someone
Yeah.
that like gave you validation
Yes,
of what
exactly,
you did, you
exactly.
were like, okay, let me keep that
Yeah,
here on my
exactly.
shoulder. Yeah.
Like when I would like play football and I would like make a big hit, or
Yeah.
I would do something like like aggressive. Like that's when people were like, oh, nice.
So you made it part of your
So I
personality.
made it part of my personality.
Interesting.
But now it makes me think like Canelo.
Hi, buddy.
It
Sorry.
it made me
You should
think.
see this cat though. If
I
you
know,
haven't,
right?
it's cute.
Come here,
It's
Canelo.
a kitten. I think that's normal. And I think that's where
Yeah.
people get lost, and that's why then coming through this work is like so powerful, because
Yeah.
after a while you don't even realize you've done it.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
And then it's hard to separate what you think is
Yeah.
you versus what's really you. And the longer it goes on, the deeper they enmesh.
I thought, what I got from, like what I've gotten so far. I feel like it's the inner me that like I've neglected for so long. That's where like the anger and bitterness comes from, of like
Have you done inner child work?
no,
Have you heard of inner child work?
No.
Yeah, basically you talk to your younger self. So you can do that in meditation, visualization, hypnotherapy. There we go. There's the cat.
Canelo. Yeah.
And you could go back and like talk to him.
What?
Yeah.
What the fuck? No way.
Back, yeah, and tell your inner child, whoever's wounded, like you can do that work and heal them. And the other thing about that is like when like that, how old did you say? Did you say 8? Did you give me a number, or did I make
No,
that
I
up?
didn't give you a number.
Would that have been the number?
Yeah, around then. What?
Psychic. I was kidding.
I know, right? That's what I'm saying.
We go back and watch, and you did say it. Yeah, you can go back and talk to your 8-year-old self. And typically, what I can feel in myself is when like my teenager self is kicked in, when my like younger like 5-year-old self is kicked in, I can tell which age I'm at. And now I'm like, my analogy is put her in the car seat and tell her she's safe and I got her, but I'm driving the car. She's not allowed to drive the car. She's not old enough to drive the car.
Yeah.
I'm the adult. So that's how it's like, have the emotion, don't let the emotion have you type thing. And so, yeah, you can go back and do that same thing. And when you feel that emotion kick in where you're like, I was so aggressive, and 8-year-old me is so pissed right now. I got you. We're good. Because how old are you again?
I'm 24.
24-year-old Asad is smarter and wiser, and we know how to handle these things. So thank you. I got you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like, I'm a fighter. It's like made me release those emotions in like a healthy way. But one thing I will say for sure, it's like a little bit of, hindrance, because it brings out like that anger and like bitterness and like aggression. And I feel like, I don't know if that's a good or bad thing. Like because the sport requires that. And maybe I should like that's one thing that like, it's made me like come to terms with it and like kind of like, like make it a part of myself. Like, but
yeah, what do you think is bad about it?
I feel like it's what I feel like it's bad because it could bring me to places that I feel like I can't like come back from. Like like I would say like sometimes I get kind of violent, and I don't know if that's a good or
But
bad
you
thing.
fight.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
For sport.
Yeah, for
so
sport.
isn't that a healthy way to release?
Yeah.
those feelings and emotions.
Yeah, but I feel like sometimes it just sticks with me. Like, if I'm out like in the world or whatever it is, I'm kind of like, well, like, all right, like, what's up? Like, like if something happens, like, I'm ready. Like, I'm always ready for violence. And that's kind of like something that,
That's interesting.
yeah, it's pretty, like, that's how most fighters are. They're always like on edge, like ready for some shit to pop off. Like, or a lot of them at least,
Interesting.
especially when you're competing and you're training and you're sparring a lot, like you're just violent. You're just always honed in. You turn the turn on switch is very like go,
Huh.
but it's fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a good time.
Interesting. I'm so on the opposite end of the spectrum.
Yeah. Like for you, what do you feel like? Is there anything that you kind of like connected, like your like bitterness from, and like you don't have to say it specifically, but like what did you do to like embrace that and just kind of let it be what it is?
Identifying it, and if there's a person attached to it, forgiveness of myself, forgiveness of them.
Yeah.
Whether that includes having a conversation with that person or just getting off of it and letting go of it for myself, and just moving on, because it's only hurting you. It's only hurting us inside. Forgiveness is, and you could go hour to hour for forgiveness.
Yeah, I wanted to talk about like forgiveness. What I feel like for me personally, I was thinking about it like, are you coming from a place of like anger, or are you coming from a place of love? And I feel like for me, when I was switched like the narrative in my head of like love everybody and like this person has something great and like positive about him, that's when it was like you kind of can't get mad at them for what they did, because it's like there's a reason for it, and and that's something that they need to work on, and that has nothing to do with you of some sort, like and it's hard, but like you said, it's a constant check-in. So like for you, like forgiveness, like I don't know, so it's definitely hard for me. It's still a journey, but like sometimes I'm kind of like, ooh, it's tough,
to forgive someone else.
Yeah.
So it's like the thorn was already there and someone bumped into it and you're like, fuck you, I have a thorn.
Yeah.
But they didn't put the thorn there, they just bumped into it. The problem, you wouldn't be mad if they bumped into you without the thorn.
Yeah.
So whatever caused the actual thorn to begin with is what you're upset about, or why whatever they did upset you.
How does one remove the thorn?
And that's like identifying, oh, that's my 8-year-old self feeling like shit because whatever. Like my friend left and I felt abandoned because they moved out of state. Or my mom was in a bad mood and didn't pay attention to me when I was a toddler. And my subconscious took that. And so now if my mom doesn't pay attention to me, I feel some type of way. But whatever, and like it's weird. Everything's connected. And that's when we realize that whatever someone else has done that's hurt within us, no one can make you feel anything, right? So it's if you take ownership of that, like, oh, I have work to do. It's not about the other person. Can other people do some really fucked up things that are not right and make us mad? Sure, right? Like, and we have the right to be mad about things. But if it's something that's like triggered where it's the emotional response or reaction does not match, it's typically a thorn.
Can you tell everybody what the thorn is, like specifically?
Thorn
like,
is just any type of wound, like childhood wound or anything that is a trigger for you.
Got it. Yeah, I feel like and there also could be like multiple thorns, right? Yeah. Like in everything, like aspect. Like maybe you have a thorn here, maybe you have a thorn here. People are just full of thorns.
We're just thorny.
Thorny. I wanted to get into like anxiety, right? And I was wanted to know, like, a lot of people, they say like, oh, like this gives me anxiety, and I feel like that's something that I feel like a lot of people prey or fall victim to, their anxiety. And do you feel like anxiety is something that one could, deal with and just kind of keep going? Do you feel like sometimes it's like, I'm not sure. Everyone, gets anxiety sometimes. Like, what do you feel like? What's your take on it?
Yeah, I don't have massive anxiety experience. Have I experienced anxiety? Yes. So I'm not going to say that I know a lot about it.
Mm-hmm.
I have done breathing. I have done journaling.
Yeah.
Just getting clear with myself if I'm starting to feel what I experience as anxious.
Mm-hmm.
And I think because I'm like imagining someone is like grasping for air and like having like a panic attack, almost anxiety.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't really had
Yeah.
much of that. So that's a whole, for me, like a whole other realm. I don't even want to touch it because I don't know.
Yeah, for sure.
But if it's like mild anxiety, social anxiety, like if I have a problem, if I'm like, because I noticed after being in quarantine for so long, when I was around people, sometimes I was like, this is weird. I don't know how to act. And I need a minute. And so I would be like, I'm going to go to the bathroom for a second.
Yeah.
Or I was really quiet and would just like breathe and just like say something to myself, like, everything's okay. You're all right. Like, everything's fine. So really returning to breath, getting centered, whatever you can do to ground yourself and be like, everything, you're safe. You're here. And all you need to do right now is breathe. Nothing's happening. It's going to change. The world's not going to end. Like, it's okay. Just anchoring into reality.
Yeah. Anxiety is a weird one for me because I feel like, I wouldn't, say that I have like, crippling anxiety, either. But it's weird to me because it's random for me sometimes.
When it kicks in?
When it's like, wait, what? Like, it's weird. Sometimes I get it when I eat. I'm like, wait, what? Like, this is weird. Like, it's like, wait. I'll have no that's what throws me off is like I'll have no reason, like, wait, what's going on? Like, I'll always try to like attach the anxiety to something that's happened, but it's like it's just weird to me because it's random.
That's so interesting.
Yeah, like that's everyone has experiences differently, but I'm like, And me, I'm kind of like, all right, like I have it, I'll let it pass.
Right.
But it's just interesting to me because it's random,
Like
what, like you don't just get random, like if you have anger, you can generally kind of like be like, oh, why are you angry? There's something that makes you angry or something that makes you happy, something that makes you sad. But like anxiety for me, like it's kind of like just random. Have you experienced like anxiety? Yeah.
In times of like when there's a situation and I can't find any sort of answer, that's when I get like really anxious because I'm the type of person where I feel like I need to solve everything or like I need to know what's next or have a plan.
Yeah.
So those are probably the examples. And
Got it.
it's the same thing as I have to like ground myself and calm down and like think like, look, sometimes things are out of your control. So that's when you need to like check yourself. And if you can't control it, then you'll figure it out. But don't ruin your day and don't stress yourself if you can't control it. Then worrying about it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like
school or relationships or
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like coming again back to reality, back to center. Like, what's really happening right now? Because it feels like everything starts to go a million miles a minute. It's like, oh God, okay.
Yeah, for sure.
I'm just sitting here.
I know, right?
It's fine.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, it's. As I was listening to him, I was thinking about the other day. I was at the store. I went early in the morning, and I was like, cool, there's nobody here. It was the weekend, and I try to stay away from stores on the weekends because, like, everybody goes. So I'm like, I don't have to be there. I don't need to put myself through that. Anyway, so I was like...
You're like, I don't like people. Fuck them all. I'm just kidding.
Just crowds of people. Like, if I could go to the grocery store and be done in 15 minutes or like a half an hour because I have to wait in line, like, I'm just going to go on Monday morning instead of Sunday. It's just that simple.
Yeah,
anyway.
for sure.
Anyway, I run into TJ Maxx. There's a TJ Maxx for you on your, if you want to get sponsored. Just
TJ, sponsor us.
And I don't know if you know anything about them. They're notorious for like long lines. It takes forever to get through their lines.
Really?
And I was like, I was like, oh, good. Nobody's here. It's going to take 2 seconds. I don't know what happened. I was staying in line forever, and I started to get super pissed. And I was like, you chose to be here.
Yeah.
Do you want to be pissed right now, or do you want to be happy? And I was like, there's music on. Oh, that's cool. And I just totally shifted right out of it because I was like, what's the point? So not quite anxiety, but just like, again, coming back to center of like, what's real right now? And like that practice can, the more we check in with ourselves, the more we can just stay in alignment with that.
Yeah.
So you feel a little anxiety, you start to feel a little bit
recenter,
like,
hone in.
Yeah. I mean, I guess that was a little anxiety starting to feel like in the line, like, this takes forever. Or I've even noticed when I'm driving and someone does something stupid and I'm like, what the fuck are you doing? I'll go, what's wrong with you, Shannon? Like,
yeah.
What are you mad about? Because you really don't care about the person who did whatever. It's something else. Because yesterday it wouldn't have bothered you. So it's like, what am I ignoring? Yeah.
Road rage is interesting because it's kind of like you can get as mad as you want, like nothing's gonna happen.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like there's actually no like, I mean, obviously some people do dumb shit like on the road, but like getting angry, like, oh, this guy cut me off on the way to work.
Yeah.
It's like, wait, and now what?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
And now
Like-
he's fine, and you're angry for
Exactly.
what? You're gonna go let that go carry through your day. It's like the ripple effect.
Yeah, I was
Like
just
you
about to bring up
walk
the
into
ripple effect.
Yeah, you
Yeah.
walk into the building, and everyone's like, "Oh, someone's in a bad mood." People feel it.
Yeah.
I was thinking about that today. I was like, if you know the feeling you get when someone texts you or calls you, and you're like, "I don't want to talk to that person."
Yeah.
I'm like, I want to be the person
Like,
whose
shut
name
up,
pops.
Kevin. I'm kidding.
Who's Kevin? I was like, I want to be the name on people's phones that they're like excited, and I reverberate that energy that they're like, that's the energy I want attached to me, my being, is people are like, yay, and not that, and we get to decide that to a certain extent.
Yeah, yeah,
and,
definitely.
And those types of things, like that ripple effect is
Yeah.
it. It's like, do you walk around in a bad mood because somebody cut you off and take it with you, and when you go meet your friends and do this, that, and the other?
Because we have the, once you realize that, we have the ability to stop the ripple.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Change it.
Change it. Or stop it. Yeah, change it.
That's the idea of we are making an impact.
Exactly.
Regardless.
Like,
either you're aware of it or you're not.
Exactly. It's like, this person had a shitty day, therefore they're going to do something shitty or feel shitty, and then they're going to, bring that to somebody else, and then they might say something to somebody else, and then that comes to you. It's like, all right, I fully understand that could just be like this vicious cycle that they've like gone through today, and I could stop it, or I could like let it affect me, and then I'll just let
Yes.
That's the ripple, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
Yes, and that's why people are like, do the work, wake up, do the things, like
definitely,
because
that person that cut you off, maybe they had an argument with their wife, and they their kids were late to school, and they had to cut you off because they were late to work.
Why are we wasting the energy even thinking about it?
Exactly.
But what's interesting about what you're saying is like,
that's
my thought is like, we could stop the ripple, but you could also create a new one, like that's a different. Like you could ride a new wave.
Wow.
The
Like
wave of positivity.
The wave
not
of
toxic positivity.
What's toxic? Oh yeah, what is that? What's toxic positivity?
Okay, so
I saw that on Twitter the other day. I was like, wait, what is this?
It's coming back. It's making a comeback.
What is it?
I saw it a few days in a row too. It's interesting how different like buzzwords will pop up.
Yeah.
Like, the attachment styles were floating around for a while recently, and then there was another one that I was like, where did this come from?
Yeah.
But toxic positivity is people who are ignoring like a real shit to be like, just be happy about it. Just be happy. Just be positive. Just be positive. Like, your grandma died. You'll be fine. Everything's fine. Just be positive. Just think positive thoughts, and then you'll be happy. And it's like, we have to deal with the emotions to get there. And yes, doing the rewiring of like the positivity and the mindset, but to push away the negative emotions and not experience them is the toxic positivity.
Got it. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, that's interesting. I don't think I want to say that I've done that before.
I for sure have.
Yeah.
When I was first starting out learning things, and I was like,
that
positive mindset.
That was me when I like in high school when I was into the law of attraction. Like, fuck it, like you gotta be happy, like just be happy. You know what I'm saying? And I would get like,
you get to choose.
Yeah.
You get to choose be happy. It's true, you do.
Happiness is a choice.
It absolutely is. And sadness is part of reality. Anger is part of reality. Experiencing our emotions is part of the reality, so that we can actually experience more joy, more peace, more happiness.
Yeah.
Because that's really what happens, is if we cut off feeling the deeper, sadder, what we maybe deem as heavier emotions, we also cut off the, like how far we can go in the opposite direction if it's like on a pendulum. Right? So if you can't experience your anger, you also can't swing back to experience your joy. So you end up just staying right there in the middle, and that's what people end up doing, and they settle with some level of despair.
Yeah.
And call it happiness, call it life, call it whatever it is.
Yeah, that's what, like, there's a quote, and it was like, most men live quiet lives of desperation because they've just like been like, you know what? Fuck it.
Stuffed it down.
All right, just at me next time. No, I'm just playing. But yeah,
that
no,
was even
seriously.
just to you. That was just
no,
like,
yeah,
like
no.
I've done it. Stuff it down.
No, yeah, seriously. Like, that's like toxic in its own way of like, like I grew up on
toxic
like
to your being.
Yeah, exactly. Like yeah, like
can
I
cause
think
cancer.
Really?
Yeah, unprocessed emotions. Unprocessed.
Are you serious? Well, we'll get into that.
Yeah.
And a lot of people that I follow, a lot of people like that I train with are like, nope, no emotion, like no decisions, like do what you got to do, like be disciplined, like this military general type of outlook on life. And sometimes I feel like that works, and sometimes I feel like no, that's like the opposite of like how you should be going about the situation. But anyways, like yeah, let's talk about the consequences of like bottling in your emotions. What do you feel like those are?
Yeah, well, you touched on one, which is bitterness that starts to
Yeah.
leak out, in any other relationship or anything else you do.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, you don't experience as much of the other emotions either. You literally just cut off your source because
Yeah.
you're holding in all of this anger and sadness and bitterness that it's
Yeah.
like even to let go to get to happiness, like that's the way through.
Yeah.
So, and then I've heard it can cause disease and cancer within the body just
Wow.
because Like, have you ever heard of the book The Body Keeps Score?
No.
So that our emotions and everything, like literally when I was talking to you about like I could see it.
Mm-hmm.
Like that is like so evident to me that its emotions are physical and part of our physical being.
Mm-hmm.
And that's capable of like, if you hold on to something, if you don't let it like release it, feel it, let it be what it is, or whatever, it can start to erode in your body.
Wow. Does our physical makeup of our body have an impact on like how our emotions like regulate and stuff?
How our emotions regulate?
Or like move? Like for example, like does a healthier body like process emotions better than like an unhealthy body?
I don't know. I would say possibly.
I want to say yes, right? Like would you say that like runner's high? Like doesn't that make you like super happy because like you're I don't know.
It's the endorphins that kick
The
in.
endorphins, right?
Yeah.
So like
Yeah.
I'm assuming like the more physically fit you are, the more endorphins like you'll get. I don't know.
I mean, that would make sense to me. I don't know.
Got it.
I'm not a scientist.
Yeah. Damn it. I thought you were. No, I'm just
no,
kidding.
I don't know about that, but it would make sense to me. And that's, for me, what physical movement has turned into. Like,
Yeah.
I do work out for my brain.
Nice.
I don't care really much about anything else anymore. I'm like, that's
Wow.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. Doing it for like, and that's another thing I feel like training has really helped me. It's like for my mental health. Like the feeling I get after like a hard like training session, it's like my mind just feels clear.
Yes.
Like everything just floods away. Like I feel like it's a drain of like just like everything. Like it's just clarity.
Yeah.
You know? So I always say like I do it for my mental health, you know? What do you feel like you said, how emotions are physical? Do you feel like if you truly believe they are, that like the only way to kind of like go about them and deal with them is through physical acts then?
I think that's definitely one way. I mean, sitting with the emotion and allowing it to come up and talking, I think, is a big thing about being able to express how one's feeling or like the experience that they've had. And then there are physical ways like movement. Dance is a great way to move energy and to move emotions. There's breath work that's available. All kinds of things that you can do to actually like physically move. And that's to move the emotion or move the energy. Hi, kid.
Canelo.
Yeah. I don't know what you thought you were going to do, but are there other ways to process emotions? I mean, yeah, because we're always in motion. We're always everything is always moving in our bodies, so you can move them out without having to physically move. But
it's like this balance of like what like the book I got from the book of like letting them pass, like completely showing them no regard, and then showing them all your regard so that you can deal with them. Like that's one thing I'm also like dealing with as well, or not dealing with, like going like trying to work with is balance. Like what am I gonna let go, and what am I gonna actually like deal with and try to figure out. Like if I get angry, right? Like for me, it's kind of like, oh, I'll let it go, fuck it, and that's helped me in some cases.
Yeah.
But it's also like, okay, no, like why are you angry right now? Like, because I don't want to hone in on every time I feel it and like try to process it. Because sometimes I feel like just like letting it pass is the smart thing to do. Just like you said, if you're out, like, whatever, I don't want to deal with this right now. And then sometimes you'll just cry and like, let it out,
Yeah. You said something that made sense. Hold on. I lost it.
It was saying how like, choosing between like letting it go and.
Oh yeah. I feel like, well, at least for me, sometimes things will get stuck. Like,
what's it called? What does he say in the book? blockages.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, you could say something to me, and I'll be thinking about it. Be like, why the heck did you say that? Or like
Yeah.
if I got feedback on something that I was like, oh, like things that just didn't go. Oh yeah, okay. Oh yeah, okay, that makes sense. It got stuck where I'm like positioned on it. I get mad, like, and it's like it won't go away.
Yeah.
I can't let it go, even just to say, not now.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? It's just like it keeps coming back up, and I'm like, okay, there's something going on. Either
Yeah.
there needs to be a conversation with somebody, it needs to be addressed within myself, or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But that's how I deal with it. It's like
Do
the
you ever?
blockage, or
Yeah.
it doesn't pass through so easily. It's
Yeah.
and sometimes it's random.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Definitely. Yeah. It's random sometimes. Sometimes I feel like having these kinds of conversations are tough because a lot of people like don't. They haven't even looked inward at all.
Mm-hmm.
So it kind of makes me think like, you know how you said like when you had that conversation with your friend, like I'm just feeling I'm having a lot of resistance to answer your question because of I don't know why.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like a lot of people are kind of like, what are you saying? Like, what do you mean? Just say it, you know? And do you feel like what do you look for in people in knowing that you could open up to them? Like, do you feel like is it like trial of like, oh, let me see what this person's about and let me see if I could truly open up to them? What do you look for in that, like with people and stuff?
I think it's pretty easy to detect when someone is performing or they're like trying to be something that they're not. And that always makes me kind of nervous. Like, I'm like, and even if I can't, I feel like now I can identify it better than I used to. It just sort of be like, something's off with your vibe. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
And if I feel that, I'm like, now I trust it. And I'm like, I'm good.
Got it.
Before, I probably wasn't paying attention, so it doesn't really qualify for the question. But now it's just like, if I feel the vibe, you just trust your
instincts.
I'm like, yeah, I'm good. Yeah.
Do you trust? So, if there's a person I really look up to, do you know who Jordan Peterson is?
The name sounds familiar.
He's a clinical psychologist from Toronto.
Okay.
And he always says that we're such flawed human beings that we should never trust and fully accept who we are as people. Always aim to do better. Always aim for something. Never be content with where you are. Like always aim for, because there's always something that, like he says, aim towards something and stumble. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. Exactly. And he goes, but what he says, and I don't want to butcher, but he says like, you don't like. There's no arrival. Like there's what's it called? David. Do you know who David Goggins is? David Goggins says that too. Like there is no end.
Yeah.
There is no arrival.
Right.
You always just stumble towards the next thing, and then you keep doing that until you die.
That helps to keep the ego out of the way too much.
Yeah. So do you agree with that? Like, do you feel like there's no?
I think as long as we're here, there's something to learn. There's somewhere to grow. There's some work to do.
Mm-hmm. That's one thing that I had this like false notion of. I always thought there was like this end goal. Like, all right, I'm going to have this. I'm going to do this. And then once I'm there, like, that's what I want. And then I was like, all right, well, that's what I'm aiming for. That was like my whole life, you know, like, oh, by the time I'm 30, like, this is straight. Like, I'm all good, you know? But like, I wasn't thinking about like, okay, let's just say you get there, then what, you know?
Yeah.
Like, there was listening to a podcast and it was saying like, oh, like, what do you want? What do you want to do? It's like, man, I just want to be on a beach, like just laying, like sipping a pina colada. Like, that's all I want. And he goes like,
made for.
Yeah, that's what I was made for. And it was like, dude, that's not life. That's a fucking vacation.
Yeah.
What else?
Right.
You know? And it was like, that's what it was like, this, whoa, like, there is no end. Like, there is no goal. Like, there's no end point. You know? There's always something. Because once you get there, there's going to be something else.
Yep.
You know?
Yeah, because you can only, can sit on a beach as long as you want to. But typically they'll say, it'll get old and you'll get bored and you'll want to do something. Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah.
I also feel like there's I feel like there's like it's a balance, right? Of like being satisfied but not being satisfied. You know, like being content with where you are, being in the present moment, but still knowing like I still got to go do this, you know? And sometimes I feel like I'm 50-50. Like, I'm very content and happy with where I am, but I'm not satisfied because there's so much more I know I could do.
I think that's a great place to be.
Yeah.
Like, grateful, happy, content, and always striving.
Yeah.
Like, because what do you, otherwise it's almost like you're running from something instead of toward.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. Definitely. What's it called? Yeah, I feel like this notion, especially like in society we have today, that like they've put things like in they put things in society to make us go and achieve them. Like I feel like, and that kind of makes us think like we've made it or we're good, you know? Like, oh, if like
Go to school, get a good
go
job,
to school, get a good job, buy stuff like that, you know?
Yeah.
And that, you know, that could be part of like, you know,
They
the
were like
system that we're in.
benchmarks of like success.
Yeah, exactly.
And
Do you
I
feel like
they're
those are
being
all bullshit?
dismantled.
Oh, you feel like they are?
Do I think they're bullshit? I mean, yes and no, because obviously it made sense on a timeline that whoever wanted people to follow and fall in line with that, whoever benefited from massive amounts of people falling in line with that.
Sure.
And telling people like, oh, you do this and you get a house and that's the best or whatever. Like at the time back in the day, sure. Now maybe not then, but I guess things are just different. Things are different. I feel like now people are understanding like that's not the only way.
Yeah.
It may have seemed like it was the only way back in the day.
Yeah.
And now it's like people don't even want to own because they don't want to be tied down and responsible for it. Because a lot of people like to travel and work remotely and not have to be tied to anything.
Yeah.
And that's some people's dream, and that's some people's like desire for their journey, and not to be, let's put roots down and buy a house, and that means that then I've made it, you know?
Yeah. I feel like in my eyes, like in the past year, like I'm definitely more like attracted to like inward like work, like my inward milestones, like where are you at with yourself, like where are you at, you know, mentally and spiritually, like like how do you go about everyday life, like, you know, how do you deal with your emotions, stuff like that. Like those are things that I'm looking for now.
I would 1,000% invest in more things that led me to experience things and myself than putting a bunch of money into like a house.
Right?
You know?
Yeah.
Yeah,
No,
like
I
would go to like some, I don't know, Bali and like do a retreat and then go travel for like 3 weeks and be like, great, that was well worth the investment that I made for that experience. Then, you know, whatever.
You're buying a down payment on a house or something like that.
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
Yeah.
Do you feel like these like experiences that people are like trying to go for, do you feel like those are well, obviously like you said, they're more valuable to you, but do you feel like this notion that like is fed to us, do you feel like more people are catching on of like,
it seems like it.
Yeah.
I mean,
especially like this year with COVID, you know?
Yeah. I mean, a lot of people started working from home.
Yeah.
And so a lot of people now are going to be continuing to work remote. So once things open up, I think more people are going to take advantage of how to live that lifestyle should they choose to. And I think a lot of people who lost their jobs, even more people have created their own ways of making money, starting their own businesses or utilizing social media or whatever else to make it on their own independently outside of having a 9-to-5 job.
Yeah, definitely.
So, yeah, it definitely seems like that's what's happening.
Yeah.
I don't know how much. I mean, I know there are people traveling around. I think that's still less than normal. But, yeah, I think like I said, a lot of people want that experience. And I think that's also possibly a social media thing that's what people do. But, I mean, to each his own. Yeah. Whatever success means to you, if it's buying a house, buy the house. If it's traveling the world, travel the world. But yeah, I do think people are changing the way they are interacting with their careers, their businesses, and redefining success.
Yeah. I wanted to get a little bit into coaching that you have, and what do you feel like that has taught you? What made you want to do it? Like, what made you like want to realize like, oh wow, this journey has helped me so much that I want to actually like spread the knowledge to others? Yeah.
Okay. So. Like I said, I got into personal development, and that kind of like opened my mind up to different things in so many ways. And then because of social media, more coaches came out and started speaking, and I was like into what they were saying, and I'm like, this is so cool. And I had a business, and I was running that by myself from home, and I just wasn't fulfilled by that because I wasn't interacting with people. And I'm like, I want to do that because I'd always been really interested in psychology. I thought that I wanted to be a therapist, and I didn't end up pursuing that. And so. And once coaching came out, I was like, this is cool. But then I watched a lot of people like kind of like in my circle or like or in my network or like 1 degree out that had been like, I'm gonna be a coach, and I was like, that looks like it's not going the way that it seems like for the people on social media.
Yeah.
So it's like I definitely want to have support in it because I felt like with my business I was already doing it alone and just like figuring it out as I went. I'm like, I want more structure, I want support. So I found a program that gave all of that, and so I was trained and taught how to build a business, which was really cool.
Nice.
And that was through going to Gap and like understanding what transformational work is and like inquiry. And it's not like, hey, I'm going to tell you how to live your life. I don't know what you want, so why would I tell you how to live your life?
Yeah.
We're going to get curious about these things that are hard to look at or sometimes hard to see, like the blind spots. Like, so that's what's also really cool is I help people to understand themselves better just by asking them questions that they get to like uncover about themselves to then like you gave a great example of you wanted all these things and like by the time you were 30 and you probably would have gotten them, but how much shifted when your mindset was opened up and like everything came so much easier.
Insane.
How different would that journey have been? What would that have looked like without that, and how different can it continue to look like because you're going to continue to do the work as opposed to just being very fixed on this goal and ignoring all of the things that were coming up along the way because they will. So it's just interesting because you'll probably go a lot farther faster now than you would have. You probably would have been successful either way, but you probably get a lot farther faster because of this work. And so that's what happens when you work with a coach.
Do you feel like, is there a certain base? Is there a certain like, what are the first things that you look for? Like when you meet with a client, like what are some things that you're like honing in on first? Because everybody's different, you know? So it kind of like, what are some things that you're looking for? What are some things that you're like aiming to change or whatever it is? Or not change, but
I was just going to say, I'm not changing anything.
No. Aiming to work with and figure out.
Yeah. So first is vision. Let's get clear on where we're going in the first place. Because if you don't know where you want to go, there's nothing to coach around. I mean, not nothing, but like it's hard to coach if you're not coaching towards anything. So really getting clear. And it's interesting because a lot of people are very afraid to just outright say what it is that they want for whatever reason. You know, like, oh, someone's going to make fun of me, or maybe it's too big, or maybe it's too small, or maybe I'm not able to do that, and so people are going to judge me because I think I can. Whatever the reason, like it's interesting to have those conversations. It's kind of like peeling back the layers to reveal like what is truly the desire that lives within you that you're not saying out loud. And then we get there and it's like, okay, cool. You're up for it? Because that like getting to that point is just sometimes such a release.
What things do you do besides holding people accountable? Like, what are certain things that like you really try to instill in people? Like, all right, I have a vision. Now, besides just saying like, all right, I'll hold you to it. Now, like, what else do you do?
That's the blind spots. That's the beliefs that are going to be getting in the way of like what we're operating. A lot of times we'll be operating as if something's true when it's actually just a belief that we have. And we may not even be aware that we're operating in the world as if that's the truth. So finding those and that's like revealing the blind spots and then opening up the possibility because you're like, you only saw it this way, but there's a million ways. Doing the mindset work, changing the beliefs.
How long did it take you to like, for example, me, like I'm still trying to find blind spots in myself, let alone
you can't
try
do
to
surgery on yourself.
Well, yeah, but like here I am sitting with a coach, like, and you're like able to like find blind spots in other people, right?
It's all through language.
Like through questions.
Yeah, we ask through inquiry. So there's questions, but it's also in the way that you're speaking about whatever it is that's happening, whatever you're telling me about.
Got it.
It comes out in your language. And so then
okay,
we get curious around some of those things that you'll say, and then it starts to reveal a different belief that is under there or whatever.
Okay,
fear,
cool.
like, whatever could be there that could possibly be in the way.
What do you feel like coaching has done for you personally?
I feel like I know myself so much better, and I have a way more control over myself and my emotions. Like having that whole, even being able to catch myself in an emotion and be like, oh, that's interesting. You're experiencing like this feeling right now. Whereas before it could have been an hour, 2 hours, or the next day later, and I'm like, oh, you're really angry. You've been angry for the whole day, you know, like,
Yeah.
or not really connecting to it. So being able to really speed that up, or when I'm in it, I'm like very quickly like, oh, okay, what's happening? What just happened?
Like practicing what you
could
preach kind of thing.
Yeah, like what could possibly be of like disturbance to me, or if somebody does something or says something, and I'm like, I'm pissed about that. Okay, I'm not pissed at them. What am I pissed about? Do I need to talk to them? No. Okay, I'm going to work on me. Do I need, or it could be something different. So like, do I need to talk to them? Absolutely. And navigating those conversations in a different way.
Got it.
And not coming from like the blame and like, you know, the hurt spot, but it's like, hey, when you said that, it occurred to me as this, or it impacted me in this way, or whatever. And just sharing that, and not coming at somebody and be like, you did this and you did that, and the different
being more
like,
composed type
yeah,
stuff. Yeah,
and just like entering into the conversation differently, it changes the way someone's going to respond to it than if you're coming in on the attack.
Yeah.
And so that's changed in how I navigate my relationships. So my relationships, I feel like, are stronger and better than they used to be.
Do you feel like you hold yourself to, do you ever like feel like, whoa, like I'm not necessarily responsible for others, but do you ever feel like, does it ever occur to you like, wow, like people are really coming to me like for guidance? Like, do you ever like feel like, I'm sure you feel gratitude, but do you ever get any kind of like pull back and like, whoa, like people like really are coming to me like to like change their life? Like, is that ever like this daunting thought? Like,
I think
not that scares you, but it does ever like, whoa.
Because I don't have to have like, I don't have to solve, I don't have the answers, you know. So it's like,
Yeah.
I just get to be as curious and kind of like as dumb.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know what that means. I don't know what that word means to you. Tell me what that word means to you. Because that's the thing. We relate to things differently. And so it's, if I start to feel like that, like kind of what you're explaining, and that to me occurs as a little bit of anxiety, I recognize that I'm trying to solve for them, and I can't do that. I can't live your life for you. I can't change your life for you. I can help you reveal the things about yourself that's getting in your way. I can help you get out of your own way.
Yeah.
So you can get to where you want to go. But I can't do the work for you.
Oh, yeah.
If I could, I would, I promise. Because that's how I am. But it's just like, it's impossible. And when we come to the realization within ourselves, it is so much more powerful than if someone were just to tell you.
Yeah, definitely. Does it ever get to you when you have a client and, you know, they're not necessarily, I'm not asking if it upsets you, but how do you respond when someone isn't doing the things that they are, you know, committing to, or isn't showing up the way that they said? To you as a coach?
Broken commitment is a cry for help. So
say that again?
Broken commitment is a cry for help.
Got it. Okay.
So if there's a broken commitment, that's actually like growth gold for coaches, because that's where we get to say, okay, so what was more important? Is it a pattern? What got in the way? Like, what you break your commitments when? And that reveals like whatever gap there is, or whatever fear there is, or whatever, you know, belief that is getting entangled in the way of whatever, doing whatever you said you were going to do, whether it was, you know, you were taking a risk somewhere and you got nervous and didn't want to do it, or it was like, I just didn't feel like doing anything this week. I felt like being lazy. It's like, cool.
Yeah.
Where else is that showing up? Or like, how is that going to serve you in getting to your, and no shame. It's just like, are you making commitments that you're excited about, that you want to do in pursuit of this vision? Like, are you making commitments because you feel like you're supposed to? Sometimes that can show up. So it just depends, and we just get curious about it. And like, that's my favorite thing is, I'm like, there's no wrong or right. There is absolutely no shame. Like, the last person that would want to have like be the cause of someone to experience shame or anything like that. So it's like, the less we can make it mean about us and just look at it again like data and information, and then we just get to choose how we want to move forward about it. And again, yes, we have our emotions, let's experience them, but it doesn't have to be just this like upheaval of emotions and this whole thing. Like, and
A little side note for me, like I feel like a lot of my broken commitments, I feel like I've honed in on a lack of Canelo. Is a lack of fear. And like,
wait, say that your broken commitments are because of a lack of fear?
Yeah. So like,
say more.
Okay. So check this out. So
check it.
I grew up in a house that I didn't really experience a lot of punishment for things. Like I always got not necessarily bailed out of things, but like if I got in trouble, like nothing, I didn't really, nothing bad ever happened. Like so, yeah, like of course like some things would happen, but um, like with my parents, like they never like punished me for things. They always just sat me down and they were like, "Hey, dude, you're fucking up here," you know. But it was never punished. Things never got taken away or anything. I never, you know.
Yep.
And sometimes I have this naive assumption that like no matter what, everything will be just fine. I've talked to Kevin about this all the time, and like, you know, no matter what happens, like I'll be okay. Like I feel like, have you seen Pirates of the Caribbean?
Yeah.
You know Jack Sparrow, he's always like, no matter, I'm gonna do whatever I want because I'll be all right in the end. Like if I go to jail, like I'll find a way to escape.
Yeah.
You know, like that's my life, and I feel like that leads to, you know, I say like one thing. I'll just give you an example of like one thing of my life is sometimes like I have a problem with like showing up on time to things. It's kind of whatever, I'll be all right. Like I'm 5 minutes late, fuck it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and are you willing to hear the impact that has on the people that are waiting for you?
Yeah, and I feel like, another thing is like, yes, but I like, it sucks, but like, I feel like sometimes I don't care.
Yeah.
And it's like, that's fucked up. That's really bad, you know?
Yeah.
And it's just pretty interesting to me. It's like that lack of fear
Or
of like lack of consequences. Huh?
I said, or it just is. It doesn't have to be really bad.
Yeah, or it just is. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
No, but it's just interesting like that I've noticed about myself. Like,
Yeah.
you know, but yeah, and everyone has their own ways of, you know, going about stuff like that. So,
Yep.
Well, thank you, Shannon.
Thank you. This was fun.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
I wasn't sure if you were going to fire another question at me. I was like,
we're good.
The way you looked at me.
No,
I was
we're
like,
good.
Oh, no.
That was amazing.
Next?
And
that was awesome.
Yeah, thanks for being on, and I hope you guys enjoyed.
Yes.